He's in his first year. So is Gary Andersen, the new head coach of the Badgers. Here he is.
Make an opening statement, and then we'll go to questions.
Okay, first of all, it's great to be here. Excited to get to this point of the year. It's been a crazy 6.5 months, and just a lot of thanks goes out to everybody surrounding Wisconsin, from the administration, Coach Alvarez, and all of his people that made the transition possible for the coaches, the wives that are involved, the kids that are involved, and moving the staff is always a very difficult time for the moms involved, and I publicly just thank them for allowing the coaches to move in. Thank the kids also for putting us in a position to be able to build trust. Trust is a big thing with us. We talked about it day one, and I think after 6.5 months we've got trust within players to coaches and coaches to players. So excited about moving into what we call the fourth quarter, which is the season for us. It's an exciting time, and this is a big part of it. We're kicking it off today. Questions?
Open it up for questions. We got our first one down here, front stage left.
When there are coaching changes, normally it's with a program that has not had success. How different is it when you go to a program that has, and how would you handle that process differently?
I think you always try to, as a head coach, big part of your job, and I tell myself this all the time, hiring a coach as a head coach is really game day as a coordinator, if you will. You need to be prepared. It's not just something that should catch you by surprise. You have to formulate a plan, understand a lot of things. What's the pay scale? What type of coach you're looking for? What type of recruiting area you're going to be in? Does he fit what you need as an assistant coach? And for me, it's two things when I hire an assistant coach. It's number one, take care of kids, and number two, you got to be able to recruit. So that's how I look at it. No different, maybe a bigger pool of coaches at the University of Wisconsin than it would be at some other places that I've been. But it's always a challenge to try to get the best coach available.
Ready for our next question? Go ahead and raise your hand. No, our microphones are fine. We've got one here, front stage left.
Gary, what's it like to take over a program that really doesn't, from the outside, appear to be broken or in dire need of great rebuilding? What kind of imprint do you put on it immediately? What have you put on it immediately, I guess, to sort of change the swing a little bit?
Well, I think number one is I'm not interested in comparing what was different, whether that may have been what we deem as being great, good, or indifferent. There's going to be differences when you take over a program. It's important to put your own stamp on it, and so I've never asked the question of how things were. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and there was a lot of success. For us, it's sit back and look at and get our core values into place, let our kids understand, again, the trust factor, let them understand the true set of core values that we're going to hold them accountable to a high level. And as coaches, as players, and really as a university, we expect the kids to succeed socially, academically, and athletically. And that's an easy statement to make. There's a lot that goes into that, but that is our stamp. Young men that walk out socially, our goal is to change it from a young man into a man. Our goal academically is to allow them to receive a world-class education, and it is truly a world-class education. It's not just a degree at Wisconsin. It's powerful. It'll carry you through for the rest of your life if you allow it to, and to compete at the highest level athletically. So that's our stamp. That's who we are, and that's what we've tried to get done in the last 6.5 months. And trust me, I do understand it. We walked into a program that was not broke. It's been very successful, and there's great young men that have been recruited there, and the prior staff did a great job in that area.
Got a question down here, front left.
Coach, we've seen that Wisconsin has gone and recruited more into Utah. They picked up a prospect there recently. Is recruiting outside of perhaps Wisconsin's traditional recruiting footprint, particularly in the Mountain West area, going to be a priority moving forward?
Yeah, well, I think if you look back in the past, there's, again, different staffs. Coach Alvarez was obviously there for a long time. Brett and his staff had an identity of where they were recruiting. Number one, and ours will be no different than those two staffs, is stay in the state. There's very good football, very good coaches. Football is important. The high school programs are run very, very well, and there's a large number of high schools. And I had no idea when I walked in, there's 400 plus high schools that play high school football in Wisconsin. So that'll stay the same. I think as a conference, and I think as the University of Wisconsin, we want to recruit nationally because we can. The Big Ten, it's a very, very powerful conference. It's very recognizable, and people understand you're going to play at the highest level and on the biggest stages. And I feel the same way about the University of Wisconsin. So with what we have to offer from an academic standpoint, with what we have to offer for young men socially, and then again I go back to it academically and the athletic world, it's a place where we should be able to recruit throughout the country, and we always will, whether it may be in Florida, California, or wherever it will be. We'll got to be careful not to get too separated out, so we cannot do a good job in certain areas, but we will nationally recruit. This is easy. No?
I've never known this group to be shy with questions. Go ahead and raise your hands. We'll get we got a couple. There we go. We got one in the back here, and then we'll come back up front. Reverse that. We'll do the front question first, and then we'll go to the back.
Yeah, Coach, it was kind of a revolving door at quarterback last year for Wisconsin with the 3 or 4 different guys who started, the injuries and everything that happened. Coming out of the spring, going into the fall, how do you see that situation? Will you will it down to just 2 guys at some point and then have a competition, or where do things kind of stand with that right now?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a question I'm sure is going to get asked a few times here in the next month or so. It's a 3-man battle right now as we kind of came through spring. We sat down with all the young men when we were first there and gave them a very clear vision that when we sat down in April, we would discuss exactly where they're at, what the situation is, and when we came out of it, Kurt and Joel came out on top in spring, and it was a very unique situation, as it is always at the quarterback spot when you have competition. We recruited Tanner, brought Tanner in. Tanner will also compete. He deserves that opportunity because he is a junior college player with 3 years left to play. Anytime we recruit a junior college player, he is going to be given the opportunity to walk in fall camp and compete and get reps with the ones and the twos at times, just as well every freshman will, if he deems himself mentally and physically prepared to be able to be in those situations, that he has a chance to help our team. So it'll be a 3-man race. I have no timeline on it, and we may jog out there the first play of the game with 2 quarterbacks on the field and see what happens from there. So who knows? It'll be interesting.
What kind of tangibles does Chris Borland bring, both on the field and then maybe the intangibles off the field from a leadership perspective?
Well, first of all, I'd say with 23 seniors, great leadership throughout the team, and Chris is the heart and soul of that defense. But there's some guys that are right there with him from a leadership standpoint. But what Chris does consistently is, a lot of people talk about leadership on and off the field, and his consistency with his leadership is the key. There's no ups and downs. There's no really good days or bad days. He's not overly flashy. He's not a rah-rah guy. He's the king of backflips after practice, so I don't know how he does it, but that's kind of his deal. But he's so consistent with where he carries himself academically, the expectation level that he has for himself daily. It's easy to follow him, and that's where his leadership starts. But he carries himself with the presence of, he's approachable for the young players in our program. He's a big part of our Big Brother program, which we've had throughout this summer, of bringing the new young men into our program. It's very important. And Chris has also accepted a lot of change at the University of Wisconsin within coaches since he's been there, and he figures it out. He understands. He's going to listen to you at first. He's going to figure you out as you move along, and then I believe he's going to trust you. And to me, that's what a quality young man does. That's what a quality person does. I believe he's the best linebacker in the country, in my opinion, from what I've seen. I have had a unique opportunity to watch him all last summer as we prepared to play Wisconsin while I was at Utah State. And then I've also had the opportunity to see him go through spring ball, see him work himself through the winter workouts and how he leads his team. So tremendous kid, tremendous leader, and I believe he's the best linebacker in the country.
Coach, have there been, over here?
I can hear you. I don't need to see you. There you are.
Have there been any moments this summer where you've realized the enormity of the job, where it's hit you?
I didn't hear him. What did he say? Go ahead, I didn't quite hear you.
Have any moments occurred this summer where it struck you the enormity of the job, the Wisconsin job, and sort of how big a deal it is? Anything stand out?
No, not really. I mean, it's been the transition again has been great. The summer's been great. A job is a job, and I think I look at them all the same as far as what are you doing to influence kids. And when I say that, you're a coach. So to me, a coach is, you're an educator and you're a father figure, and that doesn't matter what level you're coaching at. And when I say that, that the job of coaching is that, regardless of the level. This is a very big stage. It's something we're excited about being on. Coaching at the highest level is something that, selfishly, I hate to use that word, I hate to speak about that word, but for me and all of our coaches to have the opportunity to compete in the Big Ten and coach at the highest level is it's important for me. So if there's a moment, maybe that's the moment, but it's been good. But again, coaching is coaching, in my opinion, regardless if it's 8 years old in Little League or if it's the biggest stage which we sit on here today.
Next question is in the middle, stage right over here.
Hey, Coach, you coached with Urban Meyer for a year at Utah. I was wondering if you could describe your relationship with him and any influence he's had on you, if any.
Okay, relationship with Urban?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Coach has been very good to me. I have a lot of respect for him, the way he carries himself. We had a great run. I tell people all the time when they ask me about Urban Meyer, my first thing is it was great for me. I mean, we were 12-0 and won a BCS bowl, and so there wasn't a lot of confrontational times in that situation for us. But very good friend, somebody I reach out to when I have questions about things. I think there's very much a mutual respect there, and look forward to seeing him this morning. And hopefully we'll be able to spend a little bit of time as we go through. But it's great to compete against your friends. That's going to be a big game. It's way down the road at this point, and we're excited about the opportunity to compete. But he's a good person, good family man, and somebody I have great respect for.
Still have time for several more questions. Go ahead and fire your hands up, and we'll get a mic over to you right away. Got a couple over here on the right side. We'll go front row first and then come back here.
Doug Harris, Daily News. Gary, along those lines, with coaching with Urban, this last weekend they had some kids act out some disciplinary things. I wonder if you could speak to his handling of that, how he does that in-house. He might take a bit of a hit because of that. You think that's fair or unfair? Just what is your take on all that?
First of all, I have no idea how Coach Meyer handled the situation. I'm not big into that stuff. I haven't read anything about it, so I don't know. But I know he's going to be very fair. He's going to, the tricky thing in today's world is exactly what happened, and allowing yourself as a coach to get to your athletic director, and your athletic director get everybody's involved, regardless of the situation, if it needs be, and try to help the young men that are involved and get the facts straight. That's the key. Before it gets out there, and then it never has the opportunity to be fair to the kid that's involved or the group of people that are involved. So fairness is important. I think Coach will handle it very fairly. He always seems to do that. And education for kids these days is important, regardless of the scenario, the situation they get themselves in. You try to educate them, you try to talk to them, but the decisions that they make, when they walk out of your facility, the decisions that they're making nightly are so very important. And again, I go back to it as coaches, we're father figures. I've raised 3 boys of my own. They're far from perfect. When you put 105 young men or 120, depending on the time of the year, they're never going to be perfect, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't strive for that. And again, educate them, help them grow from young men to men as much as you can, and then you hope they make the right decisions. But I don't, discipline is, it's for everybody else to handle their own way.
Next question will be down right in front of us, stage right.
As far as offensive play calling is concerned, what kind of freedom do you think you have with James and Melvin in the backfield, and kind of versatility you can get with those guys?
Yeah, James and Melvin, very, very complementary to each other, very different in their styles, and a lot of it is going to depend on, how those 4 tight ends come around that allow Melvin and James to possibly be on the field at the same time. Which quarterback's playing, how well the quarterback can hurt you with his legs that's actually in the game, that matters. And so there's a lot that goes into that, but those two packaged together, whether they're on the field at the same time or separately, cause a lot of problems. You saw it last year when there was times when Melvin got out there and lined up, and the fly sweep was very effective in some games for them, and James was in the backfield sometimes. Monty was there a lot, obviously, but James was in there too. So it'll be hopefully a very powerful 1-2 punch. I know they've worked extremely hard this summer. Very proud of the way they've handled themselves throughout summer as a running back crew. Need a third back to step up, but overall as a football team, I'd say those 2 young men have prepared like so many on our team, the way that you would hope they would as a program as a whole. But proud of those 2. They'll be a big part of our offense.
Any update on Tanner's health and what the reaction was like in Madison with the news this week with Tanner?
Yeah, Tanner's fine. He was. Those are always tricky situations, and again, I go back and share with you what I tell young men all the time in team meetings, and I say this in recruiting all the time. You got to understand your situation. You got to understand your surroundings. Doesn't matter if you grow up in a town of 40 or you grow up in a town of 4 million. There's always there's issues that can pop up, and you have to be careful. And there's still problems that pop up that you can't prevent. So, it happened. We're going to do our best to learn from it as a football program. I know we'll try to do our best to reach out to many student athletes as we can to talk about it, and not just football players, to be able to be prepared to understand your surroundings. But Tanner will be fine. He's back with us now. Expect him to walk into camp full steam ahead and be prepared to compete for that quarterback role.
Time for one more. Anyone, one final question? Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
3 down, 9 to go here. Let's take a look at the Wisconsin Badger outlook. Of course, perhaps the biggest thing you see here, Derek, is Monte Ball is no longer in that backfield.
Very tough to replace a guy that's been so productive for your squad over so many years. But I've been telling a lot of people, with James White and Melvin Gordon coming back, again, this is all dependent on how the offensive line shakes out, because Wisconsin has had outstanding offensive line play over the years, especially under Barry Alvarez and Brett Bielema. But they could have even a better year running the football if these 2 guys complement each other like they have in the past.
Pretty amazing statement right there.